Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today for Mama Elephant, sharing some tall and skinny Zodiac animals cards. I have really been loving the tall and skinny size lately. What's awesome about these is they're going to fit in a standard business envelope. These cards measure 3.5 inches wide by 9 inches tall and can be created from a regular sheet of smooth white cardstock. I've trimmed down my card bases to 7 by 9 inches, and then I'm scoring at 3.5 inches to fold in half. I'm using my Score Pal to score these cards. You can see they are super tall and skinny, almost hard to fit in the screen unless I zoom out. Then I'm taking a bone folder and making sure that crease is really nice and crisp. There's my card bases. I've also trimmed some extra cardstock to 3.25 by 9 inches to use as the layering pieces to build the scenes for the front of my cards. For my first card today, I'm going to be sharing the Zodiac Ox stamp set. These cute little cows on this card are so stinking cute and can be used for things other than kind of Zodiac themed cards. So you're going to see me use cows for this fun thank you themed card today. I like to lay out the elements for my card and then do my die cutting and stamping. This is going to give me a good idea of kind of where I want things to go. You can always adjust later on, but I always like to have a starting point like this. From one of those tall 3.5 by 9 inch panels, I'm going to cut 2 borders for my thanks card using the Grassy Trio Creative Cuts dies. These are dies that have been in the Mama Elephant collection for a while, and they are staples for me. These simple Grassy borders are all that's going to be needed to create my scene, in addition to the fun Zodiac Ox critters. From another piece of 3.25 by 9 inch cardstock, I'm going to trim my final border. I like the 3 borders for this design especially because I think it really helps fill up that tall and skinny space. On my borders, I'm going to ink them with Hero Hues Reactive Inks in Key Lime Fizz and Green Apple. You can also use any kind of inks that you have on hand, including dye inks, distress inks, or distress oxides, or simply die cut these borders from colored cardstock to eliminate this step. That would save a little bit of time. You could also trim a 3.25 by 9 or maybe even just 3.25 by 4.5 or 5 inches from blue cardstock to use as the sky if you want to, if you don't want to ink that. I'm using a combination of 2 green ink colors for the grass, and then I'll be using 1 ink color for the sky. I opted to not use an additional sheet of paper for the sky, but instead I'm just going to tape my card base down to my work surface so it doesn't shift and get the back of the card dirty. And I'm only going to ink about the top half of this with some Pool Party Hero Hues Reactive Ink. Because I'm covering the bottom part of this tall and skinny card with those Grassy Trio borders, I don't really need to bring the ink all the way down. I concentrated the majority of the ink towards the landscape line where the grass meets the sky and lightened as I got towards the top of the card panel. Then I'm going to adhere all 3 of my Grassy borders to the background of my card. Starting with the tallest one, which you can see I also didn't pull the ink all the way down to the bottom on either of the tall or medium grass borders. There was no need because you're not going to see it anyway. And we'll finish with that little short border down near the bottom. If anything didn't get trimmed exactly to size, you can always flip your card over and trim that away. I had to trim just a tiny little excess away from one of those borders. I have some scraps of Bristol Smooth cardstock here. I always keep all of my small scraps because they work great for stamping small images like this to use on cards. I've stamped my images with a no-line coloring ink, a very, very light color of ink, and then I'm going to color in my images with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I love using my Zig Clean color real brush markers for no line coloring, and I only use Bristol Smooth cardstock. It is the cardstock I have found that works the best. I'm creating some little black and white cows here using natural gray, gray tint, and a blender. Very light coloring, nothing crazy, and I'm going to do all three plus the cow balloon all the same to keep it consistent. Put on a good movie, some great music, or an audiobook, and just color away. Those are my favorite things or pastimes to do when I'm coloring. Currently, I'm getting caught up on the 3rd season of The Crown, so I'm pretty sure that was playing in the background while I was coloring these images. After I've done the black and white, I'm going to take some beige and light beige for the horns. And for the snout, or for the nose on my cows, that's going to be tea rose in a blender. I kept the colors really simple for these images. I didn't go too crazy or add too many extra things. I tried to really kind of keep it super, super simple. I am going to color all of these guys in exactly the same. I don't worry about the eyes at all until I've die cut the images. If you've watched my videos before, you know that eyes and face detail are one of the things that I think are the most important when coloring an image that has a face. And that is to really make the face shine and pop. I like to take a black glaze pen and add detail to the eyes. However, if you do it before you run it through a die cutting machine, those kinds of pens tend to flatten out in the machine, and I think it dulls them a little bit. So I always just like to hold that off until I've die cut my images, and then I'll go in and add that detail in. This also is this, I usually wait to add things like mouths if the images have mouths or anything like that. So just a little tip for when you're coloring in cute little critters like these. For the spots on the cows, that is natural gray and gray tint. For the rest of the cow, for the white area, that's a gray tint that I've taken around the perimeter of each critter, and then I'm kind of just pulling that color out with a blender. A blender is an invaluable tool when you're coloring with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, as it lightens any color that you already have, and it'll help blend colors together as well. I can't recommend it highly enough. I think it is a fantastic way to be able to maybe lighten some colors and maybe not buy as many markers because you can simply create color combinations or blending with the ones you have. I'm going to pull that light color out, even though this is a black and white cow, much like any kind of coloring I do. When it's white, you don't want it to be stark white. You want it to have some shading so it matches the rest of the image. For the accessories for this card, we are going to have a little mug of, it could be beer, root beer, I don't know what kind of drink it is, a hat, a bottle of milk, and the cow balloon. And the cow balloon I opted to color just like the rest of the cows. And then we're going to be tucking these cute little cows in our grass borders, and even one along the bottom of the card, like he's kind of popping into the frame, the photo frame from the bottom. I always like a little unexpected way to add a critter to a design. You're going to see that in the second card as well with the mice, as one is going to be coming in from the top of the card. I got a little gray into the pink of the nose of the cow, and to remove that, I took my blender and I simply kind of picked the color up, wiped it on a scrap piece of paper, picked the color up, wiped it on a scrap piece of paper until I got the nose fairly clean. We'll color in the accessory images now. The colors I'm using are again shown across the bottom of the screen. There are some additional accessory images in this kit, including like a shamrock, a like gift bag, a little card, a ice cream cone, a plant, all kinds of cute little things. So you can add extra images and even mix and match with some from the Zodiac mouse stamp set if you want to. So there's even more in that. There's like a little lantern and a paintbrush. So mix and match, because these are working together, and I have it on good authority from Mama Elephant that there are going to be additional Zodiac critters throughout the year. So get ready to add to your Zodiac critters collection. Once I have all of these colored, I will die cut them with the coordinating Zodiac Ox dies. I'm going to lay out my critters and make sure that everything is kind of looking the way I want it to look. See if I need any additional elements. For this card, I actually opted not to do anything extra, but on the next card I did. So this is always just kind of like that double checking, making sure you've got everything you need for your card design before you commit to gluing it in place. And especially when I'm working with a card like this, I don't want to glue it down, or using liquid glue, I guess I want to say. I don't want to glue it down and not be able to remove it. So this is just my little double check before I commit. Now, something that I totally love about the Zodiac Ox collection, or the dies, you can choose to die cut their arms, the legs here, with these little dies. So I'm actually going to take this guy and die cut his arm so that I can tuck that jug of milk into his arm and it looks more natural. I love that this is a separate die that you can choose to use or not. So on the other one, the one that's holding the mug and has the hat, I didn't have anything in that other hand. I don't need to die cut that one. But I love that there's the option to do that, because I think it really extends the life of the set and makes it so versatile. There I added the black glaze for the eyes. Make sure you give that plenty of time to dry so that you don't accidentally smear it, which I have done before. And then let's glue these cuties in place and finish up our card. I like to tuck them kind of slightly back behind the grass and add then the little elements, and I'm using just a little liquid glue here. Look how cute they are. Aren't these fun? We're going to glue that jar of milk to the cow, and then we're going to tuck him into his border and add the balloon. For the balloon, when I was coloring it, I did forget to mention, I drew in the balloon string and the little tie around the balloon with a fine tip black marker to really make that pop. And I added the balloon tie. That's not part of the image, but I kind of like how that looks as it just ties it all together nice. Then the last cow is going to hang off the edge of the card. He's the little guy kind of jumping in front of the camera, if you will, doing a little photo bomb down there along the bottom edge. I'm taking this Thanks Script Creative Cuts die from Mama Elephant. Again, something that's been in their collection for a while. I love mixing and matching older product with new. And I'm going to die cut this from Fun Foam from cardstock, pardon me, attached to Fun Foam with stick-it adhesive. That's going to make it dimensional. And I just used white cardstock. You could use colored cardstock or specialty cardstock if you wanted to. And then I am simply going to ink that up with a red ink. I used Lawn Fawn Lobster Red ink. I like a little pop of red. We've got blue, green, and then some neutrals going on. I like a little pop of red on my cards. You're going to see that in the next card as well. So I did that in red and went ahead and adhered that to the sky. And then we're going to take the Muchas Gracias sentiment from the Zodiac Ox stamp set, which I absolutely love. I think it's so cute, so funny, and works really great for this thank you themed card. And we're going to stamp that on black cardstock with a clear embossing ink and heat emboss with white embossing powder. Then I'm simply going to take a sentiment strips die from Mama Elephant. I can't tell you how much I love these sentiment strips die. They are a basic. There's nothing like wow about them, but I use them all the time for all of my cards. I love a good sentiment strip die. I'm going to die cut that, buff away any of that excess powder from the embossing, place some foam adhesive on the back, glue this here then right underneath the thanks. And I did fiddle with it a little bit, but I think it looks best. I don't like covering up completely that loop at the end of the thanks. I'm going to shift that over to the right and pop that right there. And then we're going to finish by adding some cute little honeybee stamps, Kiss Me Candy Hearts. These are also red and they just tie in nice and add a fun little touch to the card. We've got 3 up in the sky, and then I glued one to the chest of one of the cows, the one that's photobombing along the bottom edge. So here is our first tall and skinny card. Super adorable. I love these critters. I'm very, very excited to see what else is coming from Mama Elephant, and I hope you guys are too. Now for my second card, I did share this on my blog about a week ago, but I promised that I was going to share both of these together because they really go together. They're both tall and skinny. And this is going to be a big slice of cheese with little cute Zodiac mice. Now to create the look of a huge piece of cheese, I am taking circle dies, and I just looked through my stash and I am using the Mama Elephant So Fancy circle dies. And die cutting them from this 3.5 by 9 inch panel of smooth white cardstock. And you can see some of them are off of the sides and such. Now, I think if I would do this again, I wouldn't do it this way. I was doing this on the fly and I didn't really think it through a whole lot. I didn't think about, oh, you're probably going to want to ink that up to look like cheese. If you're not going to use an orangey, yellow, whatever kind of cardstock for the cheese, I would probably go ahead and ink this whole panel first and then die cut it. I didn't, and because I didn't, I temporarily adhered all of these circles to the back of this cardstock panel with a little Post-it tape, and then I'm going to ink the whole panel up. So, I mean, it just took a little more time. It's not necessarily right or wrong or whatever, but I did want to mention the reason I did this is because I wasn't thinking it through. Once I have these temporarily taped down, I am going to ink this up to make it look like cheese. And I simply grabbed a couple of dye inks from my stash. I'm using the Fawn Butter and No. 2 pencil inks. I went through my swatch book, and these are the 2 that I really felt like worked really good for the cheese here. And I am simply going to ink up this whole panel using a blending brush. Now I want to keep the circles and the panel. That's why I have both of these. That's why I'm suggesting if you want to do something similar to ink it up first. And that's because I want to create some dimension. The circle shapes are going to be adhered directly to that card front that we created at the beginning of the video. And the panel with the cutouts, the frame if you will, that's going to be popped up with foam adhesive to give some dimension to our cheese. So that's why I'm keeping both pieces. And we're going to ink this up till we get a nice smooth blend. I'm going to play around with these ink colors. The butter is kind of more the base color. It's the lighter color through the center of the card, and then all around the edges is this No. 2 pencil ink color. And I'm really going to deepen and darken that. I know it looks a little blotchy. Remember, we're using dye inks, and dye inks tend to dry out and smooth out as they are absorbed into the cardstock. They will also fade just a tiny bit. So they're going to lighten a little bit, smooth out a little bit. So don't worry if you have some kind of blotchy areas like you see here. I'm going to temporarily adhere then my panel to my card front, just using some Post-it tape. It's not wanting to stick too good. I think it's because of the ink. That way I can use it as a guide to glue my circles to my card base. And I'm going to use a nice strong adhesive for this, and we're going to simply go through and adhere all of these shapes. For the greeting for this card, we're going to be using the sentiment from Zodiac Mouse saying, enjoy the little things in life. And we're also going to be using the hug sentiment from the Mama Elephant Try Window Creative Cuts. I love this. There's hugs and love. I'm going to die cut hugs directly from our panel. And then we're going to pop this up with some fun foam, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit. In fact, I did most of the background creation first because I'm going to be using some glossy accents that I want to dry while I'm working on stamping and coloring my Zodiac mice. We're also going to stamp Enjoy the Little Things in Life using the Lawn Fawn No. 2 pencil ink right underneath the Hugs die cut. Very tone on tone, but that's what I'm going for. I want this to look like a piece of cheese. Then on the back of this panel, I'm going to completely cover it with foam adhesive and then pop it right on to the front of my card. Now the Hugs is not in place. I did not want to adhere that directly to the card base. I want the Hugs to be prominent. This is the sentiment. So I'm just going to take some adhesive, and I'm using glossy accents. I normally wouldn't. When I filmed this video, this part of the video, I was actually out of my favorite adhesive. So kind of ignore that. Normally, that's not what I would use for this, but I did. I also have 2 layers of Fun Foam die cut Hugs. So I took that tri-window Hugs die cut it twice from Fun Foam, stacked them one on top of another for a prominent Hugs greeting, and then we're going to replace the word Hugs on top. And I'm using something heavy to hold those down in place until the adhesive dries. And once we have that down, I'm going to take glossy accents and go over the word Hugs to make it prominent. Because it's tone on tone, we die cut that directly from our piece of cheese base. So I just want to go and make this a little prominent by using some glossy accents. And this is the step where I said I wanted to do this first so that this can sit and dry, because it's going to take a little bit while I work on the rest of the card. So now that I have that done, I am ready to stamp my cute little critters from the Zodiac mouse stamp set. Just like the Zodiac ox, there are cute little mice, a little mouse balloon, and then fun accessories. I'm going to be using pieces of cheese, a cookie, the mouse balloon, a carton of milk, and I think that's it for this card, but I'm going to repeatedly use the piece of cheese. So this is an example of kind of going in and deciding later on that I needed more things. Oh, and I'm going to use multiple cookies and multiple pieces of cheese. I don't know if you guys, when I had little kids, one of their favorite book series was If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, or If You Give a Pig a Pancake, all of those different ones. But this one really reminds me, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, of the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And so I kind of think it would be super cute to maybe give to a new mom, to make a new mom card with a mouse and a cookie. Just a random idea that I thought of kind of after I did all of this that I wanted to share, because it's a cute book. It's a great one for little ones, and these little fun mice are so sweet. Unlike the real thing, which I don't really love. For the mice, I am coloring them in with mid-gray, brick beige, and the blender. So again, only 2 colors per critter, and then the blender to blend it all out. Pink haze was used for the insides of the ears and the cheeks. The mice are unique in that they've got a little bit more detail to their face that we need to work on, other than just the eyes like the ox. And that is, they've got a nose, which I colored in with my mid-gray marker. And then they've got a little bit of a mouth. They've got eyes. Again, we're going to save those till later. And whiskers. For the whiskers, you can take a fine tip pen and add detail if you want to, or you can do what I did. I took the mid-gray marker and I drew those in. The brush tip on these, if you're not super comfortable going really light-handed, because you can push that down and it will really spread out, but if you use a really light hand, you can draw in a tiny little fine line. I do it both ways. Sometimes I use a fine tip black pen, and sometimes I like to live on the edge and use my zig marker for that. So all the mice, just like all of the cows, color just the same. Using the same color combination. You could mix it up if you want to. That is completely up to you and whatever you like. You might notice I did not color in one of the mice all the way. This is the little guy. He's going to be coming in from the top of the card. so I don't need to color in the part that would get cut off anyway. I will mention that in the dies for the mice, remember when we colored in the cows and die cut them, and I said there's the arms for the cows or the legs for the cows, so you can put stuff in their arms. The same thing goes for the mice. I did not use them, but I did want to mention that that does come in the set, so it makes them very easily be able to hold on to the accessories that are included in the stamp set. I think that is a really fun little add-on included in the creative cuts, and I wanted to let you guys know. We're going to finish coloring in this little guy. I used all 4 mice from the stamp set. In the ox, I didn't use one of them. It just really kind of didn't work in the card design. So there's 4 in that one as well. There's 4 mice, then the balloon and different accessories. I used a lot of this Zodiac mouse stamp set. Something else kind of unique about these last 2 cards, I will often mix and match multiple stamp sets for a card. Both of these each just figure 1 stamp set each. Multiple dies from across my collection. I just kind of shopped my stash to see what I had, but each card just features 1 stamp set and then the coordinating dies. The cookie is colored with mid-brown oatmeal in a blender, and it's got those like little chocolate chip marks on it. So once it's kind of dried, I'm going to go back in with my darker brown marker and draw those chocolate chips in. The cheese I actually colored with light brown and flesh color in a blender. I played around with several different color combinations, and this is the one I found that I liked the best for the cheese. For the carton of milk, this is light blue and blue haze with the blender. And then the mouse balloon, it's going to be exactly like the mice. So very, very easy there. Like the cow balloon, I drew in the string with a fine tip black pin and added the little loops. Now it's time to put it all together. I'm going to lay everything out, make sure that I like where it's all going, and then I can go ahead and adhere everything to my card. I also want to make sure and add in the black eyes now with my black glaze pen. This instantly makes their cute little faces come to life. And we're going to die cut those accessories really quick. Tall and skinny cards give you a lot of nice real estate to work with. Even if you're going to be tipping it on its side, you can create a long skinny card, more of a landscape format, and I think that would be fun too. And if you guys are interested, drop me a note in the comments and let me know if you want to see more tall and skinny card designs and see some different options like landscape style cards. So now it's time to adhere the images. Some I adhered with liquid adhesive and some I adhered with foam adhesive. It really depended on kind of how they fit in the cheese openings. So the one at the top and the one at the bottom adhered directly to the card with liquid adhesive. The 2 in the other opening I'm going to adhere with foam adhesive, especially because the top one overlaps the opening a lot. One is standing on the head of the other, and I felt like it really worked better to adhere those with foam adhesive. We're going to piece together the foam adhesive on the back of the critter, making sure not to add foam adhesive along the top edge of the mouse because that overlaps something that's already popped up and it's going to make it kind of lay funky if you do. We'll add the accessories to all of the openings, including extra little pieces of cheese to the 2 small circle openings. Anything hanging off the edge of the card is going to be trimmed away with some scissors. I like to flip the card over to the back side and take some long scissors and trim that up. Don't forget to add your cute little mouse balloon. I like the height that the balloon adds to the designs. For my pop of red on this card, we're going to be using the Honeybee Stamps, Candy Hearts, and Kiss Me Again. I've glued one to the chest of the little mouse here along the bottom, and then we're going to have two kind of down below the sentiments grouped together. I love the little pop of red and the great little accent it adds to the card design. I hope you guys have enjoyed these tall and skinny cards featuring the Mama Elephant, Zodiac Ox, and Zodiac Mouse stamp sets. The supplies I used to create both of these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making or paper crafting video. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.